Hey, wow, look at that hair. Happy Sunday. That's so funny. I look like a human troll. Wow. And my eyes are bluer than usual today. Wow, okay. Well, I'm currently a week away from getting off this ankle monitor. And as you can see, it's nice, kind of rainy day today. But very nice. I left the back seat window cracked a little bit just to get some air in the car so I don't suffocate, and woke up to raindrops on my head this morning. There's a lot of people that are like, because I went in the lobby here at work to grab coffee, and one of the drivers was like, "How'd you sleep?" I was like, "Oh, pretty good. I woke up with the raindrops, and they looked at me like I was crazy." I'm like, "You like that?" I was like, "Well, yeah, it's part of nature. Nature is where I feel grounded the most. I think I can, it all depends on the situation. So I guess I went through like I don't know what it was last night. It probably has to do with a lot of my work that I'm having to go through about myself. But I was doing a little bit of reflecting last night. I had did my shopping yesterday, so I got to get out and kind of just stayed in the car most of the day. I'm at work all the time, so going into the lobby, that's basically where I work. I take a break from that, give myself balance, at least try to. So I went through this crying phase last night. I swear to God, it was probably around 11 o'clock. And the person I just got out of a relationship with, I started thinking about her. And then all of a sudden, it was almost like, I don't know, I went through and played music in my car, things that remind me of her. And, just broke down crying and doing a little bit of releasing for myself because, I am a super sensitive person. And I realized that out of this last one and last relationship, because the way she interacts with people and talks like with her friends and family, it's always in a joking kind of fashion, but it was always, fuck you, bitch. That's like the way they talk, fuck you, bitch. And, my side of the realm, fuck you, bitch, was fighting words. So it was very different for me to, it was almost like, I think at the end of our talking, I started talking like that to her just to blend in. And I think that took away some of my authenticity that I do carry. And, I was having to get on that level with people. It lowers my frequency because I am at a very high frequency most of the time. It feels like spiritually, even when like I'm doing shadow work, that's when I feel like I'm thriving. My spirit's thriving the most because I'm focusing on me, and all the distractions are no longer visible at the moment. And so anyways, I broke down crying last night, and I actually messaged the person and told them a message that I miss my best friend. Because before we got romantically involved, we of course had a really strong spiritual connection, which is, I feel that is why I tried my hardest to stay around this person and to be of support in any fashion, because I knew the realness of our situation and our connection, And there is, because we're kind of opposite, and so like the way they live and the way I live, kind of two different realms. And so, and plus we're both Capricorn, and that makes it hard on everybody because we're stubborn and we want to be leaders, and you know, it's just weird. It turns into like what seems a competition, but it's really not a competition. It's just like this ego that inflames in oneself. Especially when you get compliments from people, you got to be careful what you say to people, because inflating that ego and having them believe there's something they're not, possibly, I don't know. It's a fine line, I think, when giving compliments to people, because people have different language and different terms mean different things. It's so weird. Learning how to understand that language is the really tough part. Like when somebody says, fuck you, bitch, or I hate you, stuff like that, and it really means opposite to them. I mean, that it just, for me, it was one of those things where I got taken back and was like, what? Nothing really makes sense on this level. I mean, in my mind, if you're with somebody who you care about a lot and you love a lot, those things don't come out of your mouth, even jokingly, because like this person also taught me, words are spells. And I guess they can be if you're paying attention. That's the one thing about when you wake up from programming that doesn't resonate with yourself, and you kind of got to reprogram yourself by listening to influences that uplift your frequency. Another thing I want to hit on is people with mental disorder, because I know a lot of them and I've been with a lot of them. You got to really have a tough shell to deal with those people, in which I do to a certain degree, but when you lay down boundaries are boundaries. They're to secure myself and my spirit and my energy. They're not to necessarily block anybody. And because I'm the type of person that I'll give anybody the benefit of the doubt most cases, unless I see some signs that there is no hope, because there are people out there is no hope for. But when I can see potentially the goodness in someone versus how they usually are, like that other side that never really gets touched or opened up or even acknowledged, I like to try to tap into that with people, and it can be very uncomfortable for both of us. I love love. I love being loved. The type of love that gives you goosebumps and the butterflies and everything. I love that. That's my jam. And if anybody can receive that from their partner, I mean, that's a blessing in disguise. But when you're dealing with mental disorders and people that have lived a certain type of way for so long, that when they experience like the realness, because people who treat people badly in any type of relationship, those are the people that all they're doing is creating chaos so they don't have to look at their own, or they're allowing their own chaos built off the past to control what they're doing now. Because the only control you have is your response to situations. That's the only power we got. There's a thing called magic, and there's a thing called intentions, true intentions, and not questioning them, and being able to accomplish stuff in that fashion. Not a lot of people look into that. More and more people are starting to get that that's a great process to build whatever foundation you want to build for yourself. And I've watched that happen with several people, where it was the thought process that brought their spirit within alignment to their true purpose. And of course, it leads on more responsibilities, and so on. So dealing with people that have mental disorders, bipolar is a huge one. I mean, I think everybody's bipolar to a certain degree, but it's totally based on, for me, it's totally based on my past and my triggers, and knowing that I don't have to react to those triggers anymore because it's not the same situation. It's just a past act through an emotion. Does that make sense? It's the action that, you were guarding oneself. I was guarding myself, and I had to make a move, and I had to go with spirit and intuition and do things that were uncomfortable because that's the only way it was going to teach me anything. Some people say learning the hard way, I guess you can say, but that's what we're here to do, have experiences so we can share with one another how we got through it. This is the whole purpose of me even having this channel, with no expectations of who's going to follow any of that stuff, because it at the end of the day, as long as maybe I reached one person, that's good enough for me, man. I've served my purpose, because I am only one person myself, one spirit. One really high driven spirit, though. So like when you're dealing with somebody who's bipolar, whether they're on or off meds, because the meds only do so much, in my opinion, and plus on the right meds, of course. I mean, if you're gonna have to take something, which I'm totally against most medications. I'm not a big pharma fan. I don't appreciate that they take my friends and family and use them as guinea pigs to see what's going to work, because they really don't know. All they care about is that dollar sign at the end of the day. Not a big fan of pharma. And I feel sorry for my friends and family that do have to take meds, or they feel like they have to do. Because I've talked to several people, and depending on, now if you got a plethora of stuff going on that you need to take meds for, the odds of having like a deep-seated relationship is, I feel, just out of experiencing what I have experienced, I feel like if you have that intention or that want to be in a long-lasting relationship, it's going to be a lot of freaking work, because when you have those types of disorders and you're having to take numerous types of meds, I mean, imagine what your body's going through, regardless whether it has to be, you have to take it, or this isn't going to work out, or, there are those moments. I think a lot of the meds nowadays they don't make them so they're temporary. They make them so you stay on them, so they got income coming in from you every so often, every month or whatever, So my experience, so I come from a place of love and light. No matter what I'm doing or where I'm going, I come from a place of light. There's no doubting that. And when you're having to deal with people that are having to take certain medications for their mental illness, it causes a depression, it causes a low vibe, it causes an imbalance in that person, and it gets played out through their actions usually. And if you're somebody that's been on a certain type of med that really has those types of side effects, and like they're the ones you can't get off because it's like a physical impossibility to a degree without having to use other things in place, you go through a lot of emotions through that, because your body is trying to adjust, and it causes a lot of mental stress, anxiety. Your body's always trying to transition into something with having to take meds. And so there's going to be outbursts. People are going to act out because their bodies are trying to work with what's been given to them, you know. And in my last relationship, I took all that into consideration and was trying to learn the language and how to communicate better, because what I can say one thing, it can mean totally opposite to somebody else. And that's no doubt, especially because I know I have some mental disorder, and I've been able to work through it in many different facets, and but I'm very good at distracting myself. And you know, there's a part of me that says, oh, you're full of it, but when I distract myself, then I pay less attention to me, and then I start falling short of my daily maintenance. A friend of mine said, I need to get back to the basics, you know, and yeah, that's daily maintenance. It's no different than if you have a routine where you like to shower every day. So you do that every day, regardless of how you feel or what's going on, or if you have time, or, you know, any of that. Simple things like that. But if you're not doing that the spiritual maintenance part of this, you know, trying to move past the veil and stay connected with that other side without having to totally go ballistic and do things that you normally wouldn't do in order to push through with goals. No, there's a way to operate. You know, there's the chaos, and then there's the lighter way that just kind of moves through. Has to stay patient, has to stay focused, because I know I have at least two different personalities, and as of lately, since this last month being in the car and not really having any outside influences, working my hours and then just being cool and kept to myself the rest of the time here at work, and trying to just accept. Every day is a constant effort in accepting where things have gone. So it's been nice because I haven't like flipped over to that other personality. I think I have maybe 3. I don't know. I think maybe every time my emotions change, it feels like I'm a different person. So maybe that's how I'm rating my personality disorder, diagnosing myself. I know that being a healer and being an empath and not putting up boundaries or say even shields to not let somebody's issue become your own, like taking on that energy from whatever they're dealing with. I let that down in my last relationship, and what was happening was the people she was still talking to that had done things to her that in most cases people would be like, oh fuck no, never giving that person any more of my energy type deal. She just still talks and gives people her energy, the ones that have harmed her. Granted, everybody changes, but still, the boundary, that's one of my boundaries. You do something that's harmful to me, oh, I'm never going to talk to you again. I'm just not going to give you the time of day, because there is no reasoning for that. I don't care what, you know, people are just crazy, you know. So anyway, getting back to the disorder conversation with myself. So you never really know. People with mental disorders, they don't have it like, I don't think that there's a routine cycle that they go through. Like, okay, the first 2 weeks you're going to be crazy or manic, and then it kind of goes all over the place. So being in relationships like that, it's really hard to tell what what the day is going to bring at the end of the day, per se. Dealing with people like that and being in relationships with people like that. Especially when one's working with the dark and I'm not. I'm just not. You know, for me, it seemed like I was having to down my energy a lot to even attempt to want to communicate with any of the darker entities. And when I started to attempt, I just didn't like my energy. It wasn't even half mass, if you get what I'm saying. It wasn't, not like it usually was. So you put that combined with the mental disorders, the having to take prescriptions that bring you even at a lower frequency. It makes a lot of sense how some people have to run on that lower frequency and they don't necessarily have the means or the you know, their train of thought is now skewed due to the meds. So people aren't making rational decisions. They're just basing decisions off their emotions or what they're feeling at that time. That is probably due to the medication that's being taken. So there's a lot to consider when dealing with people with mental disorders, depending on how they take care of themselves and how they go about socializing with people, things they say to people, because words are spells, once again. If your self-talk is shit, you're going to have a battle with yourself the whole time. And being a healer and an empath and taking on people's energy, I mean, the people that she was talking with, back to the people she still connects with, that has, in my mind, done her dirty. Whoa, somebody's hungry. I took it personal because I carry respect for this person and she wasn't carrying the same respect for her that I was for her, if that makes sense. It's kind of weird. I expected, if I had expectations, I would expect one to not socialize, no matter what they had been through in the past, no matter how long you know somebody, if they're encouraging you to stay in that energy and to be stuck in that energy, seems pointless to even have them as a friend. Because I know one thing for me, and this has directly to do with living in the light and practicing light work. It's enhanced my ability to enjoy someone else's success a whole great deal. A really great deal. There's that's kind of like my payback. If I go out and I do any work with people and I connect to try to help me, to try to help them, and I give them some tools and they run with those tools. I've seen it happen a lot in my lifetime here. And it's very amazing. And that's the payback, is I help you, you succeed. Because that helps me feel good about myself, that I have the ability to do that for somebody else. You know, that's how it is. Helping, not hurting, but helping. Not to have a cash payout, but to have a spiritual payoff at the end of the, whoever the relationship is. And there's a process, there's more processes people with mental disorders have to go through. Because they're always in a battle with themselves. Or with them, whatever drugs they have to take that so-called help. And in my mind, after a long period of time, they no longer work. but yet they're still told by a trusting, paid-for physician that they have to do this for the rest of their life. It's a bunch of bullshit. Because our bodies change, our minds change, and if we're not changing what we're putting in our body as we're going through this metamorphosis of turning old, then it's going to cause some really bad side effects. Watched it happen. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of, because there's not a lot of balance in people with those challenges. There's not. Everything's fluctuating all the time. So reactions to the weirdest things can cause situations. Oh my God, my stomach is so hungry. Oh, gotta love it. Gotta love it. So understanding and realizing these things I've talked about with dealing with people with mental disorders who struggle with it, who use other things. Like, I know a lot of people that, well, a handful of people that use certain drugs that take you to the 5D realm, DMT. I tried that once, and both times I didn't really like it. It's not that I didn't like it, but it just didn't appeal to me to want to go into the 5D realm, because I have a connection with that realm, but I don't need to see it. All I need to do is feel it. Once I felt like there is another veil to be lifted and gone through, that's all I need, really. I don't need, because most of the stuff I do is not tangible. It's not visible as far as energy work goes. So you don't see things happening, but you sure in the hell do feel it. And that's where the proof is for me. I don't need to take something to, because I'm not there yet. When I get there to that next veil, I'll work through it like I always do. I'm a spontaneous spirit who can adapt really quickly. So and not everybody's like that. And, that's the thing. That's the thing. People ask me, how can you go from this to this? I'm like, because it needs to be done, because there's a change that needs to happen. So this is what I got to do. And yeah, it doesn't seem really like something a normal person would want to do per se. Definitely not normal. I don't even know what that is anymore. So yeah, I did some teary-eyed music last night that reminded me about my person. And afterwards I felt a lot better. It was good. It was much needed. And throughout all my sobbing and listening to music, I was just sending out an energy to this person that I hope she's making the right choices, for herself. Because that's all, when I met her, like, that's all I initially wanted. Because when I met her, she was kind of fake. She was kind of like telling a story about, she was kind of like one of these YouTube people that like to be outlandish and you only see one side of them, or you're portrayed as something significant among most other people, and it's usually false. So and I knew there was something up with this person when I first met him, because who they're with and what they're doing didn't seem like I saw the lighter side of this person, and I tried to bring it to her attention, and the realness of everything was just too much. The energy involved in it was just too high. it was on a definitely higher flying frequency than ever. Some of the realizations I brought to this person's mind and spirit was very uncomfortable, and it made life for her more challenging, I see now. But it was definitely, I think it gave her a wake-up call, me being able to come forth and show her another side of love, another side of romance, another side of being, and show her some tools. And what she said to me, in order for me to not be with her anymore, I think was all a lie. And I believe she said it just to get me to stop talking to her, so she forced me to stop talking to her so she could work on herself. Because I don't think any of the message she sent me is true. Which is good. It's good for her, because if it was true, then she's just going back to the highway to hell, you know. And it's tough when people have lived a certain way for a few decades, man, that you don't change. People are uncomfortable with change. They don't like change, but and some people don't like good change. It's not that if you've never had it, then you don't know what it feels like. Once you feel something that's out of your range of ever feeling anything else, it tends to intimidate oneself, because if you haven't felt it, you're like, whoa, what's that? That's crazy. Giving true love connection to somebody who's used to being used and abused is very traumatic for them, because I watched it. At the moment, it seemed great, but it was very uncomfortable for that person. And I didn't stop making it uncomfortable. I went even deeper, because I felt that the only way to get through another Capricorn such as myself, since we're both pretty freaking stubborn, was to not give up. Give the love, 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 until I got into this predicament where I can't be around. But I still give love through spirit. And that's where our connection, I think, we met once, and then we had like this spiritual interlock right off the bat. Like, we knew we were supposed to meet. We knew we were supposed to have a relationship, not necessarily in a romantic fashion, but a relationship, a friendship, a spiritual connection. And so it was uncomfortable for her, and it made me uncomfortable too, but I think it woke a part of her that had never been woken up before. Which is a good thing. That's like, okay, that's a good thing there. You pushed hard enough to where it was in their face and obvious that they had to do something. Whether it be because she works with demons, whether it be dig deeper into the darkness or back off a little bit and come into the light. So what this person's doing now, I have no clue, because we don't talk. I know what she supposedly said she was going to be doing, but who knows, so I'm just still continuously working through my stuff, which it feels like I don't have a lot of stuff, but then when I actually take a moment and focus, yeah, there's stuff going on with me that I need to work through, and that I attempt to work through all the time. It's about daily maintenance, going back to the basics, being grateful no matter what. I mean, some people's lives are really messed up, and it's hard to be grateful when you're in that, in certain predicaments, It really is hard. And I think it's because a lot of people struggle with acceptance or being able to compromise or do something different that's uncomfortable, you know. Comfort zones are comfort zones. But after a while, I know when my sitting in that zone is uncomfortable for me, then I have to move and do something different. I have to try to aspire to do something better, I guess. And all these times being on the ankle monitor, like 2 months out of the 5 I've been on probation, they've been on this ankle monitor, so it's crazy. I'll get back to y'all though. I gotta take a call. Love y'all.